Across the American Southeast, longleaf pine forest spans most of the Atlantic and Gulf coastal plains. Mature longleaf stands, like those found at Fort Polk, a U.S. military training installation in west central Louisiana, provide the most desirable habitat for the red-cockaded woodpecker, or RCW, an endangered species under the U.S. federal government's Endangered Species Act. Biologists from Colorado State University's Center for Environmental Management of Military Lands are helping Fort Polk ensure the RCW's survival.
We're here in an RCW cluster site. These white banded trees are the actual cluster cavity trees that the woodpecker uses. This woodpecker has been on the endangered species list since 1973, one of the first species that was on that list. It is found throughout the southeast, primarily on federal properties. Fort Polk is one of the 13 donor populations of red-cockaded woodpeckers, meaning that within this population we can actually capture young birds and provide them to other smaller recipient populations. These birds have in fact grown since the 70s and 80s throughout the southeast to a point where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is considering downlisting the species to threatened.
So the red-cockaded woodpecker is a unique little bird in a few different ways. It lives in live pine trees rather than dead standing snags like most woodpeckers live in. It's also unique in that it has these what we call family groups. And so each of these cluster sites, like the one that we're in right now, is home to between 4 and 6 different birds. Usually there will be a female, a breeding male, and some juveniles that kind of help out raising the younger ones. And here on Fort Polk, we have approximately 125 different cluster sites that we actively manage and monitor every year. So there's a lot that we do here on Fort Polk to try to make sure that we're protecting the species while not inhibiting the military training mission. And one of the ways we do that is by marking our cavity trees with these 2 white bands. This is a pretty universal signal to soldiers that that is a cavity tree for this endangered species, so they know not to drive too close to it or to dig too close to it. And in addition, we also help them out kind of making their homes. So red-cockaded woodpeckers of their own volition will take upwards of 10 years to excavate their own cavities. We can do that a lot quicker. We can do that in an hour versus 10 years. So we have 2 different types of artificial cavities that we help them out with. One is an insert, so essentially a bird box that we cut a hole out of the tree, stick the bird box into the tree. And the other is a drilled cavity, which is a lot more similar to the natural cavities that they make for themselves. And essentially we just drill into the tree the proper size and go ahead and get them started on that. So one of the ways that we monitor and track bird populations here on Fort Polk is through our banding efforts. Their nests are about 20 feet up in the air, and whenever it is nesting season, whenever they're hatching, we will go up there during a window of time whenever they're a certain amount of days old, and we will remove them from the nest very carefully, and we will put bands on them. We occasionally get to band birds whenever they are adults. So we put 2 different kinds of bands on them. We put aluminum bands on them that have a number that is unique to that bird, so that if we ever recapture that bird, we know exactly who it is, where it was banded, where it originated from. And we also put plastic color combo bands on them. And so that's to help us whenever we're trying to roost and check on them later on. We can see those color combo bands from far off from our scopes.
The Center for Environmental Management of Military Lands is dedicated to supporting resource conservation efforts across the federal government. Learn more at cemml.colostate.edu.